Welcome, everybody. Tuesday, February 27th. John Aravosis here at the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington. How are we all doing, YouTubers? There you are. It always takes a second for the chat to pop up, then I see you guys. Hello, all. I think technically we're hopefully good today. The volume will adjust automatically on its own, probably in half a minute. Jennifer, late. I guess I am late. It posted literally as I was going live. Sorry. Sometimes I'm like going through last minute news and stuff, and then the time runs out. So anyway, hello all. Let me get TikTok rolling. TikTok go. There we go. All right. Ooh, and my lighting's being very weird on TikTok. Don't know why, but we shall see. There we go. TikTok. Boom. There we go. Anyway, hello. Good evening. Hello, Kilo. Hey, guys. How are we this evening? Hope everybody's well. It's not a big news day. There's news though, so we'll talk about it. Interesting news, but not a huge day. Hey Ryan. Hey Lynn, how are you? Hey Trash Hunter. I'm calling it Trash. Amy, Big Hawk. Anyway, how are we doing, folks? Where are y'all out from? Give a little, as always, I like the little shout out of where people are from, which is nice. Hey Elizabeth, thank you for that. And Crazy American. Hey, New Hampshire Paul. DBZ. Thank you, John, for the gift. Anyway, yeah, so there's news today. Yeah, Biden was on Seth Meyers. Really good interview, I guess, appearance, if you want to call it that. Thank you, Joe. President Biden appeared on one of the big nightly, what do you call them? Talk shows, that's on at night. Seth Meyers show. And he was very good. I mean, he was very good. It was very interesting. Thank you, world is my oyster. He's a little old, but he was not old. He was not senile. He was not it was very late night show. Is that what it's called? Thank you, Sunshine. It was very good. No, I was very surprised. One of you guys shared it with me and I was very, very, very surprised. So, because, he does come across old. I mean, thank you, James. What do you do? The other guys tried to violently overthrow the government and hates America. So old, I can go with old. Hey, Richard. Hey, Cindy. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Marcy, for the gift. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, guys, so yeah, let's get rolling here. Are you late or TikTok being weird? I started a little bit late. I don't know. Was TikTok being weird today? Thank you, Martin, for the gifts, and Bryce and Sunshine. Is TikTok being okay? Hopefully it's been good today for everybody. Eva. What we got today. So we got some news today. It's not a huge amount of news, but it's interesting news. Thank you, Fred. TikTok with notifying you, it's like YouTube. I never know whether any of the services is going to actually, notify you of when I go live. God only knows about that. Thank you, James, for the seafloor gift. And Elizabeth and Chazak. All right, guys. I am going to get rolling here. So welcome. I am John Aravosis. This is my nightly show. We do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S., where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine, using my background in politics and journalism and law and international relations, and also just living in Washington, D.C. for far too long, since 1985, with a couple little breaks, or one little break, but that was it. Just trying to give you guys my sense of what's going on in the news as it pertains to Ukraine, and also national security and everything else too. So let's get rolling. Hey, Kevin, thank you for the gift. So today is day 731 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. President Biden met with congressional leaders this morning in an effort to cajole them on Ukraine aid. What was interesting about today is that it was Biden. Thank you, McCobb. It was Biden with the two top Democrats and two top Republicans in Congress, right? So you got, Jeffries, Democrat from the House, Mike Johnson, Republican from the House, Mitch McConnell, Republican from the Senate, Chuck Schumer, Democrat from the Senate. What was interesting is the meeting was about Ukraine, and basically everyone in the meeting beat up on Mike Johnson because everybody else in the meeting is super pro-Ukraine. Johnson is MAGA, and Donald Trump has made it clear that he's not supporting Ukraine. He doesn't want Ukraine to get any more support. Let me ask really quick. Sorry for YouTube. Is anybody else on YouTube having sound problems? If not, Sword, it's you. You may want to leave and come back. But let me know for anybody else on YouTube if you're having problems with sound. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, Satoy. And Steve again. So yeah, I mean, good that they all got together. Good that they all pressured him. As you guys know, Republicans in Congress, who is that, Lori? Thank you, Lori, have cut off all aid to Ukraine. Actually, Republicans in the House cut off all aid to Ukraine at the request of Donald Trump. You know, I mean, I'll talk about it again at some point. We always talk about it, but it's a bad situation. It's a very bad situation, and they're pretty much doing it for Vladimir Putin. It's just, you know, bad news. In any case, Ukrainian forces. So Ukrainian forces shot down actually two more Russian airplanes today, two Su-34 attack planes. That's great news. Thank you, Marie. They've been on a real roll the last couple of weeks, shooting down Russian aircraft. Remember that was it yesterday or the day before, the Ukrainians shot down an A-30 AWACS plane, basically, which is a surveillance plane. Thank you, Christine. Super important plane. Costs $500 million with a B, so $500 million. Has a crew of 15, very experienced crew, which is not a good thing to have shot down for the Russians. I mean, because you don't just lose a very expensive plane, you're losing a crew that is trained for years doing this stuff. You know, Mods people are just crazy tonight. He's a subtle one there. Oops, there we go. He's a subtle one. Any case, so this is good news. Yeah, good news for Ukraine. They keep shooting down Russian planes. Again, it's over time, this stuff is more and more useful over time. So this is a good thing. What else we got here? Macron. So very weird little controversy thing that started today. President of France, Macron, holds a summit in Paris to talk about aiding Ukraine. 20 world leaders are there, European leaders. And before Macron speaks, thank you, Adventures, and I think I may have mentioned this to you guys last night, thank you, Adventures, that Prime Minister of Slovakia, who's very pro-Putin and very anti-Ukraine. He's another one of those, basically. Thank you, Aga. Thank you, Ellie. Zero. The Prime Minister of Slovakia claims that there's a number of NATO leaders who want to send troops to Ukraine. Well, Macron comes out and gets asked about this, thank you, Pedro, and says there is no consensus in NATO to send troops. There was no consensus at the meeting. Now, when you hear that, it sounds like a confirmation. It sounds like you're confirming that some countries in NATO at the meeting wanted to send troops to Ukraine, right? No consensus means just that. It means we talked about it and there was a lot of disagreement. That's interesting. I mean, that's interesting right there that any NATO members wanted to do this. Now, subsequent to this, thank you, UTV. Appreciate that. The gift on YouTube. I appreciate you appreciating, so thank you for that. A number of the NATO countries then came out and felt the need to deny what Macron said. And they said, we're not sending troops. Well, we know none of you are sending troops. Thank you, Big Hawk. Macron said no decision had been reached because there was a lack of consensus. So, of course, NATO isn't sending troops, right? So, I mean, like they all came out, literally, the U.S., Hungary, Italy. I mean, Hungary, forget, like Hungary's going to never send troops. You know, Hungary, Italy, etc. The U.K. But again, they're stating the UK statement I really loved because the UK said, we currently have no plans to send troops. And I love that because it's not even a denial, really. It's just saying, well, right now, it's sort of like, are you thinking of murdering someone? Well, I'm not currently thinking of murdering anyone. If you heard somebody say that, you'd be like, whoa, right? So, thank you, Annie. I don't know that I've seen that one. That was funny. Oh, a whale. Thank you, Dark Phoenix. We haven't had the whale in a while. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. So let me tell you two other things Macron said, and then we'll talk more generally about this conversation. So he said that it's not off the table. That was interesting, right? That there's no consensus, but it's not off the table. He said that we are convinced that the defeat of Russia is indispensable to security and stability in Europe. That's quite interesting because, as I've said before, a lot of these guys, I think, want a tie. They don't want Ukraine to win. They don't want Russia to lose. They want a tie because they're afraid if Ukraine wins, it'll piss off Russia, right? If Russia loses all the land they stole from Ukraine, it'll piss them off and they have nukes and oh my God. So very interesting for Macron to use the language saying Russia needs to be defeated. Interesting for Macron to float this idea out there of NATO using troops. And And finally, that's it. That's pretty much it. I mean, the final thing that's interesting about this, thank you, Courtney, is it seems like Macron was almost trying to push the envelope a little bit, kind of scare the French, or scare the Russians a little, that maybe NATO's considering sending troops to Ukraine. Except that, like, France has been really bad about giving weapons to Ukraine. I mean, they're kind of at the bottom of the list for Europe. Thank you, Ivoko, for the eyes. They're kind of at the bottom of the list. I think France has given, it was somewhere around $500 million, so like 500 million. Germany's given 17 billion with a B, right? And France, 500 million. I mean, France is really bad on the list. So that it's interesting to see Macron be almost a hawk about this. Now, correct. Sobo said, didn't they send cruise missiles? They did send their cruise missiles, their Scalp cruise missiles, which is a big deal, by the way. I mean, it's a very good thing that the French sent their cruise missiles. And it's also very interesting because France isn't sending much stuff. I mean, they've sent some of their, which one? It's called their version of like the armored personnel carrier, right? Those kind of things they sent. But the grand total, France is at the bottom of the list in countries sending stuff when you total it up. So anyway, it's just very interesting that Macron did this today. It's just interesting to me. So I don't think troops are going anytime soon. I do think that, and I've said this before, if it looks like Ukraine is losing the war, if it looks like Ukraine, that Russia's planning an offensive that is huge, that could take Kyiv, the capital, that could take half the country, then you might see Polish troops and Scandinavia, or at least Baltic troops, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, moving in. And not necessarily to even fight, moving in, I would say, as peacekeepers. They don't even bring your weapons. You're there as peacekeepers. You're there as sitting ducks. You're there as a tripwire to tell the Russians, you bomb this city, you kill our troops, we're at war. Let's see. But by the way, I will say one more point. This is the danger. This is the danger of Ukraine losing this war. If we don't support Ukraine, Ukraine's going to not do as well. Ukraine doesn't do as well, Russia's going to do better. At some point, if Ukraine's existence is threatened, two things are going to happen. One, if I'm Ukraine, I'm pulling out all the stops. I am going to attack Russia in ways that they've never even imagined. And I'm going to do it in ways that is going to make NATO's back, hair stand up on its head and on its, and back crawl. Because when it comes down to it, I care about NATO today. I care, when the French and the Germans don't use our weapons, right? I care about that today. But if I'm Ukraine and I'm literally in danger of losing my country, all bets are off. I will do the kind of attacks that some people might not be happy about, right? So that's the first problem. Second problem is, if it looks like Ukraine is literally existentially in danger, I think you're going to see Poland invade and at least ensure half the country doesn't get taken over. And the Baltic states are going to help them. And then you have a real risk of a war with Russia, of all of us. And that risk will happen because Republicans in Congress cut off Ukraine. And more generally, the French and the Germans and the Americans never wanted Ukraine to win. We always wanted a tie. We were always afraid of pissing off Vladimir Putin. Because we were afraid of war. But the irony is our reticence, our holding back of weapons for Ukraine could very well lead to a war with Russia and us. So very stupid. Zelensky said today that yesterday without new U.S. military aid, his country would be unable to defend the Black Sea shipping corridor. Now, this is interesting. You may recall, I'll use the Ava's map. You may recall that when the war starts and Russia goes to town on Ukraine's shipping. Ukraine. Now, again, a little bit hard because the Black Sea is black, which ironically, but this is a body of water here, the Black Sea, cutting through Turkey and then going into the Aegean. So the Aegean and the Mediterranean is here, Black Sea, water here. You've got Ukraine. This is Ukraine's sea access, all of this. Well, the Russians took all of this. So now Ukraine's access to the sea, to the Mediterranean, and via the Black Sea is right here. Huge port, Odessa, one of Ukraine's, actually, I would say it is Ukraine's biggest port. Well, the Russians threaten Ukraine's exports of grain. Ukraine is a huge grain producer, huge grain exporter, and all related grain products. And grain and farming products in general, right? So the Russians shut down all of Ukraine's exports, trying to basically cost Ukraine money because they can't fund the war if they don't make money. And at the same time, trying to create a food crisis in Africa and the Middle East, because if there's a food crisis there, people will leave. They will try to come to Europe instead, and they want to create another migrant crisis with Europe, right? Aaron, somebody needs to explain to you how the maps work. We intentionally do not have better maps. The maps are on purpose. I use t-shirt maps. That's what we started to start with, and it's sort of our trademark, and it's what people like. So, in any case, the Ukrainians finally found a way around Russia blockading its grain exports, and they're hugging. Oh, yeah, I was just showing the map. So, what Ukraine does now is they hug the coast. So it comes out of the Ukrainian port, hugs the coast right here of Romania, NATO country, Bulgaria, NATO country, Turkey, NATO country. They're keeping the ships in the coastal waters of those countries. And by keeping it, and of course, as always, my nose is itching as the show gets going, by keeping the ships in the coastal waters, they're basically stopping the Russians from attacking because the Russians can't attack NATO waters without attacking NATO, right? So it's been very successful. But the Ukrainians need weapons to protect the ships, especially for that little chunk of land where they're still in Ukraine. And what Zelensky is now saying is this is going to put the grain deal or the grain exports entirely at risk if if Republicans in Congress continue to cut off all U.S. aid to Ukraine. So it's another example of why this is a bad thing. Zelensky made a surprise visit to Saudi Arabia today. This one I thought was kind of fascinating, to meet with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Talking about Ukraine, peace in Ukraine. I can't quite get my head around this as to what the plan was. Thank you, Martin. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just think it's a surprising idea. Again, Saudis have a lot of money and a lot of power, a lot of regional power, and a lot of power with people around the world. It's not a bad thing to get the Saudis on your side. I'm just trying to understand, I'm guessing there's some larger strategy here there's some chess game being played here with why Zelensky specifically went to the Saudis and why he went now, and I'm just not sure what it is, but I'm very intrigued. Financial Times. So this was interesting. The Danish prime minister came out, who's a social democrat, mind you, so on the left, and gave quite a blistering speech about Europe having to be way more aggressive taking on the Russians. I want to read you. This was from the Financial Times. Let me read you a little bit about this. Europe must curb. Listen to this. And by the way, from a social democrat, listen to this. Thank you, Ernie. Thank you. Who is that? Aggie. I saw an Aggie or an Aga gift. I think it was Aga. I think it's Aga because I saw you. Aga, that's it. Yes, because I saw you yesterday and you reminded me of my aunt in Greece's name was Aga, my old aunt in Greece. So I saw you. I remembered when I saw your name. Thank you for that. Financial Times, listen to this. Europe must curb welfare spending and tax cuts to deter a more aggressive Russia with prolonged defense and security funding increases, according to Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. Now, again, think about this, guys. This is a social democrat. The social democrat they're the left, okay? Saying that Europe should curb welfare spending, cutting tax cuts, fair enough, because tax cuts tend to be a right-wing thing, at least in my country. Thank you, Monica. But cut welfare spending and have prolonged defense and security funding increases, which again, at least in my country, you typically associate that more with Republicans than Democrats, which is very interesting. She said that the European continent has been naive vis-a-vis Russia, and that they had to avoid the mistakes of the 1930s and step up and scale up its defense industry to contain an imperialist Russia, which has made Ukraine its first target. Freedom comes with a price, she said. From a European perspective, we have to admit that we haven't used enough money on our own defense and security, she said, pointing out that since the end of the Cold War in the early 1990s, Denmark and others had cut their military budgets. A little bit more from her. We have been too naive. And in the Western part of the world, we have been too focused on getting richer. And therefore, we also have built up dependencies on countries that we should not be dependent on. Gas from Russia, new technologies from China. She said it was time to have a discussion with our populations in general. We haven't paid a price for our freedom the past 30 years. No, I mean, what she's saying is absolutely true. I'm just kind of blown away that it's a social democrat saying this. I mean, I'm not knocking social democrats. But it's sort of like in my country where it's the left that is being much more, not even hawkish, I would say much more pro-defense, realistic on international affairs, standing up to the Russians, worrying about defending the country and building up the national defense. And it's the right that's, at least in my country, that's been co-opted by Putin. The Republicans have via Donald Trump, and I don't know about Europe, whether your right wing has been sort of co-opted more like, do you guys have that in Europe? I mean, I know a lot of you are European. Do you have that same weird dynamic we're having where the left is more pro, taking on Putin and defending Ukraine, and the right is more basically sympathetic to Putin and kind of genuflecting to him? Or is that a very American thing? In other words, Putin hasn't co-opted your governments yet like he has ours, or have they? Here it's switched, but I'm not imagining in Europe as much. Just to see. There's always a little delay when I ask these questions, so I've got to wait like 8 or 10 seconds for your guys' answers to pop up. Okay, not in Belgium, not in the UK, Germany. Which way for Germany, though, Prince? Now, Netherlands, you've got that lunatic who might be taking over your government sometime soon, Wilders or whatever. He's clearly pro, right? I mean, you've got Netherlands, at least with that guy. You've got Slovakia and you've got Hungary, right? Those clearly have fallen to Putin. Netherlands, I don't know. No, Netherlands, what's the latest though? He's not been made prime minister yet? Are they still sort of fighting over whether they can put together a government? I just haven't looked lately because the election was a while ago, and he's a right-wing anti-immigrant. Far right. I shouldn't say right-wing. Kind of a right-wing extremist, anti-immigrant guy, but in a racist right-wing extremist kind of way. And at least I'd heard originally, it still wasn't clear that he would be able to form a government. Just curious. Yeah. So has he been able to form a government or not? I'm assuming not. Wilders, or however you pronounce it. It's not very American to be pro-Russian. No, it's not. Especially when you're doing it on behalf of the Russian dictator, which is what's going on here. Donald Trump has been co-opted by Putin. We don't know why. We don't know how. He's been corrupted in some way. Thank you, Don. And the Republican Party is going along with Trump like a good little cult and not defending America, not defending our allies, freedom, and everything else. It's very sad. All right, a little bit more here. The head of the British Armed Forces, Admiral Sir Tony Ratigan, said today, "We are not on the cusp of war with Russia. We are not about to be invaded." This was interesting. Things to succeed. Thank you. World is my oyster. Interesting because we've had sort of a very interesting increase in the last several months of European defense officials who have been really concerned about Russia, talking much more about war with Russia. And it's just interesting to see the head of the British Armed Forces trying to kind of tamp that down a little bit. I thought was interesting. Now, he's right. We are not on the cusp of war with Russia. This is one of those, again, where you're sort of parsing what he says, right? We are not on the cusp of war. Cusp of war means it's happening tomorrow. It's not happening tomorrow. We're not about to be invaded. He's right. That really doesn't deny, though, that we are now at an increased risk of war with Russia, and the danger is significant in the next 5 to 10 years, right? Because of Ukraine and because Russia is winning in Ukraine, I should say, and what Putin will do next. So he's not really denying that, I would argue. Is this the final story? This might be the final story. Yeah, like I said, there's not a ton of news tonight. The final story is multiple venues in Russia are refusing Alexi Navalny's mother's request for them to hold the funeral for Navalny. Now, Putin murdered Alexi Navalny, as you know, Friday of a week ago or so. And the basically Putin held onto the body, wasn't going to give it to the mother, was actually letting it rot. She was saying that the body was actually decomposing, which is crazy because the body should have been on ice. So clearly Putin was letting the body rot because he was trying to blackmail the mother into not having a public funeral, hiding the funeral, not letting anybody know when the funeral was or where it was, and possibly hiding the body as well, like once it's buried, because Putin didn't want Navalny to become a martyr, which happens when you kill people, by the way. Oh, well. Thank you, World is Maestro, for the gift, by the way. Well, now the mother is reporting she can't get a funeral home to take his body. And this last quote was particular. She says, in one place, we were told that the funeral agencies were forbidden to work with us. So they've been forbidden to take his body. I mean, this is dictatorship, guys. I mean, it is the narcissism, the insecurity. I mean, Putin is so afraid of Navalny, right? But also so evil that he had to, kill the man, abuse the body after he's dead, abuse his mother after he's dead, like by blackmailing her with the body. And now Putin is so petty, he won't even let the guy be buried with a funeral home. I mean, this is dictatorship. This is dictatorship. I mean, this is how it works, And I mean, I bring these stories up because I think it tells you something about Russia, and it's not good. And it tells you something. I mean, all of these stories collectively tell you what this country is, what that country's government is. And again, it's not a good story. And it's no wonder, that we don't get along with them because, again, it's just not a good place, unfortunately. All right, that is it for the news stories today. I'm going to have a sip of water, and then I'll show you a couple of the auction items because our auctions are going till Friday. We've got a number of new auction items up, cool stuff from Ukraine that I auction off on my Discord. It's discord.aravosis.com, and we basically take half the proceeds, go back to Ukraine as donations. Half of it are for humanitarian work and military work. Half of it goes to support my work because I do this for free. So I appreciate your guys' gifts. Please keep the gifts coming on TikTok and YouTube because I quite literally do this for free, and your gifts help me pay the bills so I can keep doing this. A couple of the different things we're auctioning. We've got a very cool Ukrainian military patch. This one is a sewn-on patch. It's not Velcro on the back. To me, it looks like it's used, but I'm not going to swear it. Some folks the other day saw it and said it looks like an older one, which it very well could be. But it says Ukrainian Armed Forces on it. It's funny. It kind of reminds me of the Imperial Japanese with the the stripes coming out. This one is very nice. It's a Christmas ornament, but I like it, and this woman does such a great job that it's the Petrokivka style of the Christmas ornaments, but honestly, it doesn't have to be for Christmas. It's just a beautiful art piece right now, but you can see, thank you. Oh God, that thing is insane. Thank you, VS. That is an insane gift. I always forget about that bear. It's kind of over the top, isn't it? But so there you go. That's the piece. It's very pretty. So I'll put it next to me so you can see how big it is. It's a decent sized piece, but they're very pretty. Work for Easter too? Well, for Easter, speaking of Easter, for Easter, I've got 6 hand-painted wooden Easter eggs from the Ukrainians. Again, in the Petrokivka style. They're very pretty. 6 or 5? I've got 5. Actually, not 6. 5. Oops. There we go. You guys can. I don't want to. I keep like almost dropping these, but you guys can see them. They're very pretty. And like I said, they're painted they're wooden and they're painted in the Petrokivka style. But they're very pretty. Thank you, Dark Phoenix. You may bash 1 quick second. Actually, the last thing I'll show you is, this is very cool. This is a piece of a Ukrainian MiG-29 fighter jet that was shot down over Ukraine, probably around January of 2023. We were able to do some research on it, which is really interesting. Thanks, Din. Some research on it, and it looks like it's one of the Ukrainian special flight sort of display team, sort of like Blue Angels, I think we call it in the States. The Ukrainians, I've got the name. It's in the description on the Discord, but they have special painting on them of the Ukrainian colors, and it looks like it's a piece from that, which is kind of cool. So I just thought it's just a neat piece, and it's Ukrainian. I know we've been auctioning off pieces of Russian planes before too, but I still think it's kind of a neat souvenir of Ukraine. So check it out. We've got a lot of other stuff too. Like I said, I've got about 9 things that we're auctioning. All will benefit Ukraine, and 50% of the money will go back to Ukraine. 50% will benefit me. Now, Bash Brannigan paid to ask the question about the striking painting behind me. Well, the irony is, if you mean that, it is not a painting. It is a panoramic photo I did, this thing, of the Louvre, of the courtyard of the Louvre in France. And this was back in the day before our iPhones did such things. I think I probably did this back in 2008, maybe 2010. And it's probably 24 photos, 24 different photos that I stitched together with my computer. Can I zoom? I never quite know with you guys. Oops. Oh, I can zoom. Huh, what do you know? Had no idea. Yeah. So you guys can see. It's the courtyard of the Louvre, but it's about 24 different photos, which is very cool. And using my computer, I stitched them all together. Anyway, I'm very proud of it because it's my photo. But somebody actually once did come over and they said, "Oh, did you get that at IKEA?" And at first I was offended and I was like, "IKEA?" But then I thought, "Oh, okay. If you think like my photo is something that IKEA would sell," I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. I like that." So anyway. Yes, so no French boots on the ground in Ukraine. Correct. Thank you, Aaron. So yeah, let's do questions and answers, guys, and just discussion and everything else. So we are done with the news part of the show today. So as I said, it wasn't a very complicated news day. Thank you, Jeff. Interesting news day. Mom is good. Thank you for asking, Jane. I am trying to make money because I need to pay the bills, and defending freedom, as the expression goes, freedom isn't free, guys. Like one of the trolls is complaining that I make money. Well, you know what I always tell people? First of all, make money. If I wanted to make money, I wouldn't be doing this. But also, I always tell the trolls when they bring that stuff up, because I'll say the left is funny. Again, talking about politics, because I've worked in politics for 30 plus years. People on the left often don't understand the need to make money. And I used to have a big political blog, and I did it full-time blogging. And people would say, like, "Why should we pay you for that?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm doing it full-time." My favorite was, "All you're doing is writing." That was the best part. And I was like, writing is a career? But so there's always that weird thing of people thinking you shouldn't be paid, but whatever. You guys are great, though. I mean, you guys have been very supportive. But yeah, I always tell people, do you get paid? Are you greedy because you take money for work? Anyway, a U.S. electoral shirt map. That's not a bad idea. That's an interesting idea. That is an interesting idea. That would be very interesting. Did Tucker Carlson meet with Snowden? I don't know. That's a good question. Thank you, Timothy. I wouldn't be surprised if he tried. It's the kind of thing Tucker would do. And honestly, in my view, Snowden's a traitor, so Tucker would probably love it, But, Misha, I don't see Misha yet today. Hard to say if he's showing up. Yeah, you don't get my corduroy jacket. I got my corduroy jacket. Thank you, Timothy, for the gift. I got this corduroy jacket at Goodwill at the, secondhand, not the secondhand, I say secondhand, but meaning it's one of the, for you guys abroad, Goodwill is like one of the big poverty agencies in the U.S. So it's not like a private store that sells old stuff. Well, we say thrift, but I'm thinking for foreigners, the word thrift, they're not going to know. But basically, one of the big poverty groups takes donations and sells them. But I got this jacket for like $5. I was so proud. My $5 jacket. So very proud. Anyway, Chinese economic challenges, relationship with Russia. I mean, that's a big question, Aaron. I mean, the thing that's interesting with China is the economy is not doing well. I mean, in a very bad way, in a very sort of systemic way. Not like, oh, we had high inflation last year here in America and now it's tamed down. I mean, not doing well as in economic growth is down and it doesn't look like it's coming back. And in China, you've got to realize Chinese economic growth, because the country's so big, like 1.5 billion people, and it's still a poor country in many ways. I mean, it is not on our level. It is not Western Europe, right? That they needed massive economic growth to modernize and everything else, right? And their economy was growing, I kid you not, like 8 to 10% a year, which is insane. Our economy in the last quarter grew, I think, 4.9%. And frankly, that's an insanely large number. It's the highest in decades. And it's almost considered a little too hot. Because for us, if the economy grows at 4.9%, you do run the risk of inflation and other things. I mean, it's great. It's great overall to have the economy growing like that, but you can get problems like inflation and stuff, right? In China, on the other hand, you need the economy growing 8 to 10% a year. Well, it's down to, I want to say 3%. I don't think my Alexa will know this. Alexa, what is the Chinese GDP growth per year?
From NIH.gov. Despite the financial crisis still sinking the world economy, China's GDP growth rate in 2010 reached 10%.
Okay, 2010? Alexa, shut up. 2010. Sometimes they drive me. Somebody Google for me. What Chinese growth rate, I want to say it's down to 3% or so. Hey, Google, what is the current Chinese economic growth rate? Now all your Googles are going to answer, sorry. Oh, hey, Google, raise your volume to 25 or 25%. Hey, Google, raise your volume. I think it's 3. Yeah, I think it's, Chesek is saying 3. Some people are saying 4. I don't think it was 4. Maybe, guys, but I think it was closer to 3. It was, for China, it was very low. And this is an ongoing problem for them. They're also having a demographic problem, I think, too. But, population's getting older. I know 2010, like, what was she even thinking? I love that. I love it. For 2010, like, why don't you tell me for 1950? In any case. So that's the China question. Now, how it affects China. Thank you, Tom. A couple different things. I guess one, and I don't know the answer to this. How would China taking over Taiwan affect its economy overall? Would it benefit China's economy? Taiwan itself would probably benefit Chinese economy because Taiwan is a economic powerhouse, and the semiconductor chip industry that Taiwan has a monopoly on, the high-end stuff, would be great for China. The problem is the invasion of Taiwan would be a disaster for China because there are going to be massive sanctions, war, trade with the U.S. will come to a halt, trade with Europe will certainly be in trouble. Thank you, Tom. And I'm not sure China could afford that. So that's the interesting sort of question is with the economic situation being worse, I feel like to some degree it makes it harder for China to invade Taiwan because the repercussions are going to be even worse. So Diana's saying Reuters says around 5%. That's better, but it should be 8 to 10. And it's not. So that's what's so interesting. Thank you again, Tom, for the gift. Mikey for the fingers. The finger heart. We don't know. Zero is asking, how do you think that the Russian AWACS were taken down? Do you think the U.S. pointed them out to the Ukrainians? Vlad was talking about this S-200 missile system that some people were claiming. We're talking about the Russian surveillance plane that the Ukrainians took down a month ago, and then they took another one down a couple days ago. Really big deal. These are very expensive planes, big crew, a big deal. Russia only has a handful of them. Vlad was saying some people were talking about the S-200, but he was saying that, I think he was saying that the missile is too imprecise. Like basically, it was used for loading nuclear warheads because if the nuclear warhead didn't get close, you didn't really care because it was a nuke, right? So Vlad is very suspicious that the warhead could have taken it down. It certainly could have been a Patriot missile battery, maybe. Now, the Patriot missiles, I think we believe the AWACS plane, the A-50, the Russian plane that was taken down last month, could have been a Patriot missile battery. There is also the belief, and my friend Vlad in Ukraine is kind of there, that the Russians may have shot down their own plane this time. They may have done it. I mean, the Russians sort of initially claimed they shot it down and it wasn't the Ukrainians, which struck me as kind of funny because, like, your best defense is, they didn't do it, we shot it down ourselves. And you're like, oh, good for you. That says a lot for you. Right? So we don't know, but it's actually possible the Russians shot it down. I mean, it's possible, So we don't know. But I think the one last month, a lot of people think it was the Patriot missiles. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about Edward Snowden tonight. Thank you, Wally, for the rose. What else we got, guys? It could. Well, the thing is, the U.S. I'm sure the U.S. is helping with intelligence, so we could have given them some intelligence on where the plane is or whatever, but that doesn't mean how it's shot down. How it's shot down to me is like what weapon system do they use, etc. I mean, we know the U.S. is helping the Ukrainians, as far as find targets and things like that. Interesting. Terry Davis says Taiwan's monopoly is about to end on high-end computer chips. Intel has exclusive rights to ASML's next release, which exceeds current capabilities. Okay, a little over my head, but I'm going to take that to mean that Intel, which is an American company, has upcoming chips that are very impressive, if I may translate that, right? Thank you, Elizabeth, for the singing frogs. Very funny. Thank you, Addie. What else we got, guys? Well, maybe you guys did. I mean, Edelweiss is saying Ukrainian officials said we shot it down with our own weapons. Again, totally possible. Totally possible. because, Ukraine's been shooting down a lot of Russian planes. Like I said, they shot down 2 more planes today. So the Ukrainians have been doing a very good job. Huge computer chip factory in Syracuse. That's nice. I've studied history. Cool. I am much more of a modern history guy. I am not a history guy. I had to study post-World War II history in graduate school for my graduate degree because my graduate degree was, foreign affairs, international relations. Thank you, Maddie. And at least from an American perspective, we don't really care about what happened in the 1800s when we're studying foreign policy. We care about what happened from the World War II afterwards, which is sort of the American century and all of that. Thank you, Eddie. So, I studied a lot of history. Well, some history before. We had to study we did take one class that was like the history of the world, which was really boring, but nonetheless, we did. Thank you, Adventures. I just found it boring as hell. It was a lot of, Dutch commerce and the Dutch boats coming over in the 1400s. And you were like, oh my God, I'm going to die if I read any more about Dutch commerce. But, what else we got, guys? What else? No, there's nothing about Chinese soldiers being on the battlefield in Ukraine. No. I'd be surprised if China would even do that. I don't think so. I don't think China wants to get involved in that way, but we certainly heard nothing about it. No. What else, guys? I can tell it's a slow day for you guys as well, a little bit. It's Tuesday. I thought it was I thought it was Monday. It's Tuesday. What else? No, there's volunteers. Yes, volunteers from Europe and Ukraine. Now, that's an interesting question. I wonder if there's any Chinese volunteering with the Russian military. But honestly, if you're Chinese, why would you? Right? Actually, honestly, why would anybody volunteer for the Russian military? For money, yes. Right? The Ukrainian military, you're volunteering because, money, but a lot of people are doing it because they care and they want to help. I can't imagine too many people going, yeah, let's volunteer for the Russian military. Woo-woo. Which countries are in danger after Ukraine? Poland, the Baltic states would be my big 4. Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland. After that, I'm talking of NATO. Moldova and Transnistria are in real danger, clearly. And Belarus, Putin's kind of doing it via trickery. That he's going to take Belarus, I think. Or not Belarus. He's going to take Belarus for the next 5 to 10 years if he can. Oh, excuse me. I'm yawning at you guys. I don't know. The thing is, I just don't know if they'd go after Romania, but they might. Who knows? Yeah. I've gotten much more worried about what happens next with Russia. I think at least, the first 2 years I was thinking, what's Russia going to do? They wouldn't dare touch NATO. Now, after Donald Trump invited Putin to attack NATO, all bets are off. And Trump invited Putin to attack NATO. That sends the message to Putin that would Trump come and actually, if Putin wants a small sliver of Poland, is America, I was talking about this today with a friend, is America really going to war over a small sliver of Poland with Russia? Not if Donald Trump is president. Is America really going to war over a small sliver of Poland that Putin takes if MAGA Republicans still control the House of Representatives? I'm not convinced. Donald Trump is on Putin's side. He's not on Europe's side. He's made that clear repeatedly. And Trump has made clear repeatedly, by the way, this last time Trump said he wouldn't come to the aid of European countries who weren't spending enough on defense. 4 years ago, Donald Trump said he wasn't going to help Europe at all. He said, we will not come to your aid, period. Nobody. He wants out of NATO entirely. So that's the danger. That's why I think the situation has totally changed now. With the cutoff of U.S. aid, because of the Republicans in Congress, MAGA Republicans doing it for Donald Trump, we now have cut off all American aid. We've made it clear we're not going to defend Ukraine. We've made it clear that we're not going to defend Europe. We have increased the chance of war in Europe now, all because of Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans selling out America and defending America's enemy in Russia. So dangerous as hell. So I've really flipped in terms of my concerns about the possibility of war with Russia. And by the way, so has pretty much every defense expert in Europe. They're just as worried now, which is why you're hearing so much about it. You know, Europe plays a huge part in their own safety. Yeah, but Russia's huge and they're a superpower and they've got 5,000 or 6,000 nuclear weapons. So, you know, you need Russia. Russia spans 11 time zones. It's not 13, is it? I think it's 11. 11 time zones is Russia, east to west. 11, okay? America, the mainland America is 4 time zones. Mainland, if you don't count Alaska and Hawaii, okay? 4. Russia's got 11. They're freaking huge. Europe is defending itself. But at some point, you know, we can't just sit back and let the whole world go to hell. You know, and I think this is something that unfortunately the MAGA crowd has really done a disservice because we have gotten into this sense that America doesn't count anymore. And frankly, it's a little bit of America loathing, to be honest. Trump has said far too many negative things about America. It's this sense that we can't do anything. We're not worthy. We shouldn't be there. We shouldn't help our neighbors. We shouldn't help, right? We shouldn't promote American power internationally. We shouldn't promote democracy. I mean, it's a very almost left-wing European thing. I mean, Donald Trump likes to talk about communists and socialists. It's a very socialist, communist European notion, you know? America, stop getting involved in the world. We don't want you here. Okay, good. Well, I'm sure the terrorists in the Middle East and the Russians will be very happy that you all feel that way, you know? So, what else, guys? Well, I don't know if there's anything new about Elon Musk in the Defense Department. I mean, he's a danger. He's a danger. Elon Musk should never be given another defense contract in the rest of his life. The problem is he's got a monopoly, and the Defense Department better figure out who else to give money to instead of Elon Musk because the man's a danger. He's crazy and he's a danger. And if it were you or me, we'd never have a security clearance if we were Elon Musk. There'd be no chance in hell, you know? Oh, God, a couple days. I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember what the latest is with Elon. There was something. The latest with Elon. Thank you, Annie. The latest with Elon is Republicans in Congress saying that Elon has cut off internet to U.S. troops in Taiwan. And again, take a wild guess why Elon would cut off internet to U.S. troops in Taiwan. Who would be nearby that Elon curries favor with that wouldn't want, right, Starlink or its military version? What's the military one called, guys, for Starlink? I forget what it's called again. Somebody pull it up. I don't have it in front of me. But yeah, China, of course. You know, yeah, there are a million fake Aravosis accounts. That's why you should only pay attention to the account that has 500,000 followers. All the other ones, ignore all the other ones. Yeah, not really, Mike. What else we got, guys? What else we got? Skynet. Yeah, it's not Skynet. No. It's a name. Star Shield. There we go. I think it's Star Shield. Yeah. It's the U.S. military contract with Elon Musk's company to provide broadband internet to U.S. troops worldwide. And Republicans in Congress are saying, for some reason, it just doesn't work in Taiwan. What a surprise. So, and Elon has huge business interests in China with Tesla. Huge. So, no, Starlink is the main company. Star Shield is the Pentagon contract. So, the dog is sleeping somewhere. Oh, she's kind of she's like, you guys might be able to, I don't think I can, hold on. Oops, I got a dog request. You can see just a little bit. She's between the pillows and the end of the couch there. You can see her squeezed in between the pillow and the couch. She's sleeping, so she's not doing an appearance right now. For you all, you can't see. The computer's too low. Oh well. Sorry. The Joe Biden episode was amazing on the Jimmy Kimmel or whoever, not Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers. It was very good. Yeah, Sasha's wild. Anyway, what else, guys? Exactly. She wants her teeth brushed in about half an hour. She'll be up and bothering me. Ukraine lowering conscription age. Don't know anything about it. But, you know, if your country's about to get wiped out, sure, go for it. I mean, I'm certainly not opposed to lowering conscription age. Right? I mean, we're talking about genocide of the country being wiped out, you know? So, I mean, I don't really care, I guess is what I'm saying, because it sounds like a reasonable thing to do. because they don't have a choice, you know? Yeah, the Republicans, it's funny, Junk just said this, and thank you, Magical, for the gift. The Republican, Fox News is freaking out at Joe Biden because he was eating an ice cream cone on TV the other day while somebody was asking him a question. And the best part was, just Jesse Waters, who's this right-wing host, a big guy on Fox News. It's unmanly. Real men don't eat ice cream on television. He said, and they also don't eat soup, because if you've got to eat hot soup and blow the hot soup, it also looks very unmanly, which I love that. So I went and Googled, and I mean, this will come as no surprise. First of all, he's an idiot, because as soon as you say something like that, you know what people are going to do next, right? So what did I do next? Big surprise. I decided to look and say, any Republican presidents eat ice cream? That would be George Bush. More George Bush, a different photo of him eating ice cream, not looking very manly. Ronald Reagan eating ice cream, looking manly though, I would say. Nancy's looking manly too. Our favorite, he's looking very manly with his ice cream there. Everyone's numero uno. For you guys, it's hard to see, but it's always hard for you. That's Trump for you guys that can't tell. Here's Trump looking, I would say this is the most manly photo of Trump eating a very long, thin chocolate thing. You can get the idea. So yeah, I mean, give me a break, No, but it's just, this is what Fox News does. It's what they do. It is all about, they're very good at the propaganda. They're very good at the propaganda. Your father's pregnant, romantic? That's interesting. Huh, didn't know that. Okay, we get it. Your father's pregnant. I get it, romantic. Okay, congratulations. I'll tell him you said hi later. Well, Jesse, I know all of them. Anyway. It's funny though. I did see Biden eating the ice cream, and I immediately in my head said they're going to give him shit for this. Trust me. I saw it, and I thought they're going to give him shit for being unpresidential, whatever, and they did. But again, you're the president. They're going to get video of you eating everything. And actually, I would argue eating ice cream is humanizing anyway. So it's not a bad thing. But I mean, Republicans and Democrats all eat ice cream. It's okay. It's okay. Oh, the Russian. So we do have a lot of Russian. Well, maybe we got to talk more about Russia not doing well, because the Russian trolls are still here and very upset on TikTok. So should we talk about the 2 Russian planes getting shot down today? The Su-34s, that was embarrassing. Coming on the heels of the Russian A-50 getting shot down, the big AWACS that's worth $500 million, killing the 15 crew members. I saw pictures of the crew members today too. Young guys killed. I mean, just blown away by the Ukrainians. What a disaster for the Russians. How about all their boats getting sunk? Oh my God. Thank you, Monica. Actually, the biggest insult to the Russians right now really is that we're 2 years into this war. I had a Russian troll on TikTok today try to go, oh, it's been, 2 years and you still haven't won. And I went, dude, you're Russia. You're fighting little old Ukraine, and after 2 years, you still haven't beaten Ukraine, right? You're Russia. If you can't beat Ukraine, how the hell are you going to beat anybody else in the world, right? You're going to be seriously, and my favorite is when the Russians just admit it. When the Russians say, well, the Russian government says this, well, the reason we're not winning in Ukraine is because we're fighting all of NATO. Oh, so you mean Russia's weak compared to NATO? Russia can't beat all of NATO. Well, that's good news to know. Thank you. Thank you for admitting that, Russia. No, whenever they admit that, I always get a chuckle, because they're literally admitting that Russia can't beat NATO, that all of NATO combined is more powerful than Russia, and there's nothing Russia can do to beat them. It's like, okay, thank you. I will remember that next time you threaten to go to launch a nuclear war. I'll remember the fact that you're all admitting that you can't beat us. So there we go. I had to do a little rant because we had Russian trolls, and whenever the Russian trolls come, I always like to kind of turn it around and say, okay. Well, and NATO isn't even trying. Angel says NATO isn't even trying. We're not even trying. We're not sending our best weapons, right? We're not using our Navy at all. At all. America's not using its cruise missiles. Germany's not using its cruise missiles. We're not using our Air Force at all. We've used none of our Air Force. Some of the weapons for the Air Force, right? But that's it. Russia is the Borg. I don't even think Russia's the Borg. We'd have to find something. Russia might be the Ferengi. Thank you, Grunerman. Or the Goa'uld maybe is Russia. The Borg is giving Russia way too much credit. This is geeky Star Trek science fiction stuff we're talking right now. Because the Borg are powerful and kick-ass. The Russians aren't powerful and kick-ass. They're more like the Goa'uld. They enslave people, but they're really just slimy little parasites that get in your head, but that have no power. And they have no power if they have no power beyond being a parasite. That's more like it, I think, for what the Russians are. The Russian government, of course. But Goa'uld is more like it, Anyway, what else we got? Yeah, I mean, John says the mother could take Navalny's body to another country, but that's what Russia wants. That's what Putin wants. He doesn't want a grave. I wouldn't be surprised if they bury Navalny and Putin goes and steals the body because he doesn't want Navalny to be a martyr. I would not be surprised. Yeah, but even the Cardassians, I think by the end of Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, the Cardassians ended up being relatively noble in their own way. Russia does not. The Cardassians don't deserve being compared to the Russians. I'd almost say Ferengi. You're right. Maybe it is the Breen. It's just, we do have to find a good comparison for the Russians. I still think it might be the Goa'uld. Because actually, the thing about the Goa'uld too. Oh, I am Baal, right? I mean, is that not the Russia? Is that not Putin, right? Your impudence. How dare you speak to me this way with your impudence? I mean, it's totally Russia. It's totally Russia, right? Sort of, I always say insecure narcissism, right? I'm the top of the world and nobody knows it, so I must oppress you, right? I mean, it's although I'm still doing my Romanian Carpathian accent there than anything else. Moscow on the Hudson, oh my God, I think I saw it, but that was 40 years ago. I don't even remember. I think I saw it, but I don't even remember it now. SG-1. God, I love SG-1. It's so good. It's so good. The Domina? I don't remember what the Domina was. Yeah, that was my Dracula accent. Not quite, but if we sent NATO into Ukraine and ended it in a few days, is that viable? I mean, we wouldn't do it. I don't know if we could end it in a few days. I don't know. I mean, the problem now, and I mean, some of the military folks would have to tell you better because I'm more of a foreign policy guy. With the way the Russians are dug in now, okay. Anybody who's military out there who really knows this stuff, if NATO were to just invade and declare like Russia bombs Berlin or something and we decide to go into the war, how difficult would it be for us to push Russia out of Ukraine? Or do we have the same problem that they've dug in so deep that it's going to be hard to clear? Now, mind you, we'd bomb the hell out of it so there wouldn't be any Russian soldiers left. Folks are saying weeks to a month. You think? Some are saying difficult. Because that's my question is like, you've still got the landmines and everything else. You know what I mean? Right. You'd have several weeks of aerial bombardment, which we did with Iraq both times. But, I mean, the problem is, okay, so people are saying a few months, so it kind of depends. I mean, the problem, Pineapple, is, because Pineapple's asking, like, from a foreign policy perspective, the benefit. I mean, you can't separate out the rest of it, which is the other aspect of foreign policy benefit or cost is we're going to war with Russia. You go to war with Russia, you do risk nukes. I mean, you do. I don't think that's what's the word I'm looking for? Not deal breaker. Yeah, deal breaker maybe, right? In the sense that I don't want there to be nuclear war, but I'm not afraid of Russia's nukes. Because if I were afraid of Russia's nukes, then I would simply give them Alaska, right? At some point, we will say no to Russia, right? We're not going to let them take Alaska, even if they say we've got nukes. So I feel like, you still have to worry about, but you still have to worry about the fact that Russia has nukes. If we go to war with them, will we win? Will it be contained to Ukraine, or will the Russians get angry and start bombing Europe and start bombing, Western Europe or Eastern Europe, whatever, and bombing the European capitals? I mean, that's sort of the question. It starts to get, there are other and frankly, would China get involved if NATO got directly involved in the war? Would they? I don't know. So, I mean, there's those kind of, and putting aside the fact of how many men and women would we lose in the war itself, right? How many of our troops would get killed, which is important too. You have to kind of balance all of that, which, I mean, I would love, in my dreams, I would love us to get involved and wipe Russia out of Ukraine. But you've really got to think of what would they do? How would they react? Now, having said that, Russia uses their nukes in Ukraine, game over. We get involved. That's what I'm saying. Like, at some point, you've got to set some red lines that say, we're going in. And to hell with it being risky. Life is risky. Yeah, freedom, to defend freedom is risky. Yes, They might use their nukes. They may not, though. They may not. Oh, is she up? I did see her moving earlier, James. I didn't see. Oh yeah. Well, she's sitting on the ottoman. So like I said, for you guys, I still can't. There's too many wires tied into her. Thank you, adventurers. I love that freaking bear. That is the funniest damn thing. I've got too many wires plugged into my computer, so I can't lift it up to show you. But she's on the ottoman over here, sort of laying down. Oh, she's standing up now. Look out. Look out. All right. Deet. We have a dog sighting. Oh, she jumped down. All right. You lost her. Thank you, Hazel. That bear is just ridiculous. Yes, the neighbor, I think, is home, but the lights haven't gone. The lights are on. It's like a change in the lights that sets her off. Like she sees the lights go off and then she loses it. Could NATO troops in Ukraine end the war without fighting? I don't think end the war. I think NATO troops in Ukraine could stop Russia from advancing, right? I mean, you just put NATO troops on the ground and say, you bomb, you kill NATO, we're at war. Honestly, it's something Russia would do. The Russians would have the balls to do it, But I don't know how, thank you, MTI photo. I don't know how you get the Ukrainian land back without fighting Russia. That's the thing, we can. Kyle is asking, how about moving tactical nukes to NATO's borders? With Russia. The thing is, I don't know what benefit there is to it. I think to some degree we don't have a choice. If Russia's moving nukes closer to NATO, NATO should move nukes closer to Russia. Thank you, Jeremy. There ought to be a tit for tat just to make Russia learn their lesson. But, when it comes down to it, we could put more nukes, nukes in Poland, or I always forget if we have nukes in Poland. We had like the 5 or 6 countries that have nukes. I'm forgetting again. Turkey. I don't remember if Poland was one of them. I remember Turkey. I remember the Netherlands, Italy were 3. Who else? Somebody want to Google? What were the 5 NATO countries? I could ask Alexa, which she'll probably screw up. Alexa, in which countries in Europe does the U.S. have nuclear weapons?
Yes, the United States possesses nuclear weapons.
You fucking moron. Did you hear that? Yes, the United States possesses nuclear weapons. It's like talking to a moron sometimes with this thing. Yes, the United States has nuclear weapons. It's like early Internet 101 or something. Like the first iteration of Alexa came out. I know, but it just ticks me off. I'm like, are you freaking stupid? Oh, God. I can't even. Oh, Sasha wants water now. We'll see. I'll give her a minute until she starts getting annoyed. Wait, so where did we say? Britain, U.S. nukes, Britain, Turkey, Netherlands, I want to say, Italy, I think, and then who's the 5th? I was thinking Belgium. Is it Belgium? But is it Belgium and not France? France has its own. Is it Belgium and Netherlands? Or is it one or the other? I'm going to give the dog wants water. I'm giving the dog some water while you guys finish Googling. It's right in Google. You'll see it. All right. A little bit of water. All right. There you go. Okay. All right. Okay. So did we come up with the list here? Netherlands, I remember. Turkey for sure. Oh, I remember Turkey. Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey. So it was Belgium as well. That's the one I was forgetting. Okay. Oh, Germany. But it's not the UK? Or actually, no. We removed our nukes from the UK, and the issue now is whether they're coming back. That was the issue with the UK. Yeah, Callum says the list is correct. Not France. France has its own nukes. They don't need our nukes. And actually, it would be sort of an insult to France and if they had nukes. And Britain had their own nukes too. Yeah. Yeah. So, yep, that's what it is. Okay, so Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey. Okay. Yeah. Yep. And the French, especially, the French would be kind of embarrassed. Why do we need American nukes? We've got our own. You know what I mean? I mean, the Brits might, if there was some reason for the Brits to have them, they'd be like, sure. But France, you know. The problem with Ukrainian airspace, so this was talked about at the beginning of the war, is setting up a no-fly zone over Ukraine, basically closing Ukrainian airspace to anybody that isn't Ukraine or Ukraine friendly, right? The problem is to do it. Sasha, you're done. No more. No, she's begging for more water. She can wait. The problem is it is very risky to do. In order to set up a no-fly zone, you've got to take out all the Russian missile launchers that are in Ukraine, or, and I asked a friend about this when the war started, or within 300 to 400 miles of Ukraine. You got to take out all the missile launchers so that the missiles don't go and take down your planes that are patrolling the airspace, right? That's not easy. I mean, we're gonna bomb missile launchers in Belarus and Russia, right? And if even the ones in Ukraine, if we bomb them, we have to kill everybody. We have to kill all the Russian troops. That's a big deal. So but even in Russia, even in Ukraine, we would have to kill Russian troops manning the missiles and manning the radar in Ukraine. So it gets difficult. And I'm not opposed to this necessarily, but a no-fly zone means you are also promising that if the Russians do anything, if any Russian plane or helicopter takes off in Ukrainian territory, we, the U.S., are going to shoot it down. So that's the other thing. You are promising you're going to blow up Russian planes. So it's a very serious commitment. That's sort of the issue. You know, that, again, could lead to more war. Having said that, you know, I still think before the war started, we should have moved into Ukraine, I mean, with Ukraine's permission and request, we should have moved into Ukraine and just taken over. Put NATO troops all over Ukraine. Tell the Russians to go F themselves. When the Russians complain, you say, why? You said you're not invading anyway, so what's the problem, right? You know, and there's no risk of war. You're not invading. And we put our troops all over the country. And we could have even potentially put a no-fly zone and said, we're protecting the skies, and if you don't invade, there won't be a problem. You're not going to die. But it's something, honestly, it's something Reagan would have done. It's something Putin would have done. But I don't think we have any leaders that have the balls like that. You know, Britain maybe has got some. I don't know. But we totally missed an opportunity. We should have. But again, I'm more hawkish. Biden, I think, is too cautious on this stuff. You know? I mean, but again, it's not just Biden. I don't know whether the French and the Germans probably wouldn't have accepted it either. You know, do we have another goat friendly? Yeah, I would. I would not knock off Big Mac yet. They may not be a troll. I'm not convinced that was not a trolly comment, unless they wrote something else trolly mods on TikTok. That was not a trolly comment in my view. It's the kind of person where the next comment could have been troll, but from my view, that was not trolly. So unless they wrote something else. Because it's a fair question to ask. Would you risk American lives? Maybe, because that's kind of the way it works, right? Sometimes you've got to risk American lives to defend freedom abroad and defend freedom at home. I think we should be very judicious about it and be very, you know, sort of is the word sanguine I'm trying to find about it, right? And take it very seriously. But just the simple fact that American lives could be lost is not a reason you don't do something, right? I mean, that's ridiculous. That's not even an argument, right? Oh, well, if we might lose American lives by doing something, then we wouldn't do anything in terms of our military. Then we might as well just close the military and go home. So I think it's a stupid argument. Macron has impressed me this past week too, Brex, but I don't quite know what he's up to. Because again, it's not like France is giving so many weapons to Ukraine, yet they're suddenly the great hawks of Europe, you know? Thank you, Super Hornet. It's a little weird. I'm not sure what they're up to. You know? What else, guys? Another minute or two, and then we can get going. Will Sasha have a cute dress for election night? No. That's not a bad idea, though. That's not a bad idea. I could look and see if there's some red, white, and blue thing she can wear. That's funny. That could be funny. Oops. Well, and that's what Emil says, that's the risk. We will be risking American lives sooner if we don't give support to Ukraine. That's the thing, is when it comes down to it, we are not at risk of war with Russia because we're helping Ukraine. We're at even more increased risk of war with Russia because we're not helping Ukraine. That's the thing. If the danger here is that Russia learns the lesson from Ukraine, that invading the neighbors is fine. Invading Europe is fine. NATO is going to cave. Trump is going to welcome them, right? And he decides next that maybe he could use a little bit of Poland, especially, and it's not just a pipe dream. You know, you go, there's a little slit of land here that Putin would love, connecting, well, Belarus, which is quasi-Russia, to Kaliningrad, which is a Russian little state that's right here in the middle of Europe. And the Russians would like nothing better than a land bridge here, take a little bit of Lithuania, a little bit of Poland, and now they've got a land bridge from their evil neighbor to Kaliningrad. Exactly, Sawicki Gap would love nothing better than to do that. So there is very good reason for Putin to want to take land. Is Finland safe? I mean, I think they are. Certainly they're going to screw with you all. Finland was probably pretty safe anyway because the Russians are afraid of you guys for good reason. But I want to say everyone's safe because of NATO. I think the good news is I think America, God knows if they'll help you guys because the Republicans have shown they don't care and they're on Putin's side. So I don't know. I wouldn't trust the Republican Party ever again on foreign policy or defending America abroad or at home, frankly, but ever again. The good thing is I think the rest of NATO would defend Finland. The Baltic states would, the Brits would, probably the French. I mean, I think all of NATO would defend Finland. Hungary and Slovakia, forget it, right? But all the normal people would, and whether Biden would try, and the MAGA Republicans would go crazy. And then we'd have to have a big discussion about, about all of that. Musical, real thin ice. Just warning you on YouTube. I know what you're doing. Don't go there. I don't like spammers. Not a big spam fan. Thank you, James. Buy Sasha a treat. Thank you, James. Appreciate that. U.S. is always late to the party, but I think the bigger lesson there is the U.S. always learns that it's got to be at the party. Like even in World War I and World War II, the U.S. wasn't gonna enter the war. We don't want to go to Europe. This kind of crap. And then we got dragged in, and we didn't have a choice. We will get dragged in again if war happens in Europe. So see ya, Ash. Yeah, we're gonna go in a minute anyway here. Sasha is a Yorkie Bijan. Misha was asking. Thank you, Bombasco. Actually, I was showing you guys my. I've got her on my. I've got her on my phone. That's Sasha. So now you could again a little blurry, unfortunately, on your end, but you can see. You guys can see better. I love that picture of her. She's like a little lion. Thank you, Blue Ariel. Appreciate it. Do I think Ukraine's going to win the war against Russia? I'm not convinced right now. No, because Republicans have cut them off. But also, it's twofold. One, 50% of the reason Ukraine isn't going to win the war is the Republican Party has cut off the Ukrainians. 100% U.S. aid. The other 50% of the reason Ukraine isn't going to win the war is because France, Germany, and President Biden don't want Ukraine to win the war. I mean, this is the one argument, thank you, Bamba Squeezer. This is the one argument the Republicans have that's correct, which is what the hell is Biden's plan? Now, the irony is, the Republicans say it, and they just want to cut off. They don't care what Biden's plan is. They will not fund Ukraine. They don't care if Biden has a plan, but they're using it as a smoke cover. But they're not wrong. Biden doesn't have a plan. He doesn't. He doesn't want Ukraine to win. His plan is to keep giving Ukraine enough weapons so they don't die and they just keep fighting. That's not a plan. And Macron and Scholz is the same thing. The French, the Germans, and the Americans do not want Ukraine to win this war because we're afraid of pissing off Putin. Then, and I've said this before, then what is the freaking point? I mean, we give Ukraine weapons so they don't die? Okay. And for what, the next 20 years? What's the point of it? No, I'm absolutely correct on this. I've talked about it for 2 years now. Most of the defense experts agree with me. I am absolutely correct on this one. We want a tie. We are not giving them the weapons they need because we want a tie. We don't want Ukraine to win because we think it's going to piss off. We do not want Ukraine taking back, put a finer point on it, we don't want Ukraine taking back Crimea because Vladimir Putin has nukes and he'll get angry. Well, okay, great. Just, I mean, remember that in the future, you know? Anyway. Dog, no. She's begging for more water. The dog drinks. The dog has always had a little bit of a drinking problem, as we say. Sasha, stop. Cut it out. I have not watched Oppenheimer yet. No, I've got to watch it. But I've not seen it. I've got to see if I can find, I will never run for president. I've got to see if I can find it somewhere. All right, let me do the quick summary because we only had 3 pages of news. Quick summary, and then we're going to go, guys. Thank you, Jorge. Today's day 731 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. Biden met with congressional leaders today to push Ukraine. It was pretty much the Republicans and the Democrats all beating up on the House Republican leader, who is a MAGA guy, Mike Johnson, and is doing Donald Trump's bidding in killing U.S. aid to Ukraine. Ukrainian forces shot down the second Russian Su-34 attack plane today. 2 different planes they shot down today in one day. President Macron said that NATO has not reached a consensus on sending troops to Ukraine, but left open the door to it and caused a whole flurry of news today in Europe as to whether NATO was considering sending troops. Zelensky said today that without U.S. aid, he thinks the grain corridor where Ukraine is currently exporting their grain is going to get shut down, which, by the way, has real implications for world famine, let alone for Ukraine's budget. Zelensky secretly went to Saudi Arabia today and met with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. That one I thought was very interesting. The Financial Times says that Europe must... Oh, this is interesting. Hey! She's like hitting her bowl to annoy me, to say, give me water. My dog. I then read an article talking about Mette Frederiksen, who's the Prime Minister of Denmark, who's a social democrat, but very hawkish on Russia. And just very interesting, talking about Europe needing to spend more on defense and that they've been naive about Russia. The head of the British Armed Forces says that we are not on the cusp of war with Russia, so everybody should chill out. And finally, multiple funeral homes in Russia are refusing to do the funeral of opposition leader Alexi Navaly, who Putin killed, because it looks like the government told them not to take his body and not to take the funeral, which is just the last little nasty little thing Putin's doing. So, all right, guys, I'm going to sign off. We've an hour and 23 minutes. That's pretty good. I will see you all tomorrow. What is today? Tuesday? Okay. Back tomorrow, Wednesday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you, mods. Ashley in absentia. Ashley had to go. But thanks, guys. All right. We'll continue this. I haven't done one of my daytime ones. Maybe we'll do a morning one of these mornings. Just an informal morning hangout. I haven't done that in a while. I mean, we do the weekends ones, but I kind of like I don't really care about Aaron Bushnell, to be honest. I really don't. I think it's a silly issue. So yeah. And I think, honestly, people should stop trying to glorify suicide. It's really gross. It's really crass. It speaks poor things about your movement, and you're also going to cause more suicides to happen. We're talking about a U.S. service member killed himself, who had zero connection to Ukraine. Zero. And I mean to Gaza and Palestinians. Set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy a few days ago and killed himself. And Palestinian supporters are now jumping on this and praising him for committing suicide and talking about what a hero he is and and they're even using the word martyr for this guy. And frankly, the experts are saying you're really on the verge of creating more suicides, because it doesn't matter if he's supporting your cause. We do not support suicide. We do not encourage suicide. We don't say people who commit suicide are heroes, so that the message gets sent to other people who are troubled that they too should kill themselves. That is not the way to go. And that's not the message. And it's gross and it's sick. And it's frankly twisted. It's manipulative. it sickens me that people would even, and it's far too many of the pro-Palestinian supporters are doing this. It's all over social media. I mean, I've been arguing with them all day. Thank you, Woodward. It is, I mean, like, you've got your cause and that's fine. Don't go and try to convince people to kill themselves for your cause. That's sick. And I mean, I was talking with Callum and some other folks about this today. And the thing is, too, it's not like the other. This guy appears to have had mental illness, I think. Thank you, Paul. Don't know the guy, so I'm not going to say he had it, right? But people are saying, well, look at the Tibetan monks who killed themselves. He's not a Tibetan monk, right? He's not living under Chinese rule and decides to kill himself. He's not an IRA member who was arrested by the British and was in prison and went on a hunger strike, right? He's a white guy in the U.S. who has zero connection to the Middle East, zero connection to Arabs, zero connections to Palestinians, zero connections to Gaza. And he was so distraught about Gaza, he decided to set himself on fire and kill himself in front of the Israeli embassy. That is not right in the head. And this is not the kind of thing we should be promoting and convincing people that this is a good thing. And like I said, there are some sick people out there on Twitter who were calling this guy a martyr. Martyr is the word that the Palestinians use for terrorists. They martyr themselves. And they not just the Palestinians now, because we've got terrorist groups across the Middle East now, totally. It's sick. It's absolutely sick. This guy had problems, and I feel horrible for him, and I'm not going to blame the Palestinian supporters for killing him because the guy clearly radicalized himself, but he had real problems. And you don't go embracing that. You don't go praising that. That's sick. Some American lights himself on fire for Ukraine, and I'm going to say the same thing. That person's a little wacky if they did that, and that's very sad. And I'm not going to say, attaboy, let's get more people to do it. That's sick. That's just sick. You know, talk to somebody who knows a little about suicide, because all the experts have been online and they've been livid. I forget the term. It's called a contagion. I mean, I know the word contagion, but somehow with suicide, there's some word about contagion, which basically is that you create the conditions that more people want to copycat and do it because you've created the sense of, hey, this is kind of cool. So yeah. So there we go. Not talking about it. No talking about it. Yeah, you're crazy. I mean, Duty, I'm sorry. Not you, but Duty's saying, I think he was just tired of man's inhumanity. If you're tired of man's inhumanity and you set yourself on fire in front of the Israeli embassy, you are mentally ill. It is not normal to say, you know, your Weltschmerz kicked in and therefore you decided to set yourself on fire in front of the Israeli embassy. You're not right in the head. A lot of us don't like man's inhumanity. A lot of us are upset about climate change, right? About death in the world. I'm upset about Ukraine. You don't go and commit suicide over it. That is not something we should I think we're normalizing it. I think we're saying this is not normal. And it's not about doing a stigma. It's not about doing a stigma to people who commit suicide, but you sure as hell don't say, that's great. You're a hero. So then all the other people out there who are considering it go, you know, very bad. Oh, grow up, Baha. Stop talking bad about the guy. We're literally talking about people like you who are convincing other people to commit suicide. So I am not a fan of people who lie and twist words, so don't even. All right, guys, we're going. But somebody brought it up, which is why I thought it was important to talk about it. We're not talking about it anymore, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of people who basically use other people's death for their own cause. That's sick. It's just sick, and it's twisted, and not cool. All right, good night, everybody. That was fun. That was fun. All right, have a good night. Bye, guys. Thank you, mods. Boom. You guys, too. People were bringing that thing up for the last couple of days, and a troll did it, but at some point, you've got to respond. All right, see you.